Hey Jacob, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. You're right.
Yeah, happy Thursday. How's things?
Oh, Thursday. Yes. Good. Yes, absolutely. Fine. Yes. Brilliant.
It's good to be here
Uh,
with you. Good to be here. Good to be
yeah,
here with
absolutely.
you. Excited to be doing another one of these webinars again. And today is your topic. So for those who haven't clocked on or have only watched one or two of these, we take it in turns to plan the topic. And this week is Jacob's turn. So we're chatting about behavior nudging. Jacob, tell us some more.
So I love my background is in design, right? So that's steadfast. I'm head of clients and creative. So I support our clients in relationships and things like that. But from a design side of things, I run the design team. And a lot of that is around the world of user experience and perceptions and mapping and then usability and things like that, and really getting under the getting into the mindset and understanding of our clients' customers, or if it's a community members or clients or user base, whatever it might be. And so what we're chatting about today is around like behavioral psychologies in community design. So it's which is all about exploring why people act the way that they do and how we can encourage them to have a certain action or persona within a community platform. To kind of support that engagement. So in community design, it's about sort of like understanding the psychological principles and that your members might have and using them to encourage positive actions and engagement. Mm-hmm. And particularly how we can nudge positive behaviors, but also leverage kind of social proof and influence as well to encourage positive behaviors. And what I mean by positive behaviors isn't just like people are nice to each other in the community. Obviously, that is an element to it, but also behaviors that lean towards the goals of the community, why the community is here, and those things have kind of been set. So that's kind of what we're looking at is how we can nudge positive behaviors, split into the two, and how we can kind of leverage social proof to influence behavior as well.
So the first example that popped into my head would be a community that is, say, running their annual survey. So they run a survey to make sure they are serving their members well, but actually everyone knows that filling out a survey is a bit of a time-consuming thing. And rather than just shouting in, your loudest and most popular way of doing so, please fill in the survey, it's actually nudging them to do so it feels natural and less like a direction, but then also showing them the reasons why actually filling that out might be positive. So last year, somebody filled this out. They had this note, we took this action, and actually everything's now better for everyone because somebody took 5 minutes last year to do it. It's now better for everyone.
That's exactly right. So it is, rather than necessarily, hey, please fill out this survey, we'd find it really useful. It's a this bit of insight has been amazing. It'd be great to get your insights as well, how we can improve this. And it's a little bit of that's more of a language change and a bit of a nudge. And the social proofing element of that example as well is the fact of someone else has done this.
Yeah.
Come and do this as well, and be like, so it's that's exactly right as an example. That's great.
Cool. And social proof isn't a new concept. Like the idea of Trustpilot reviews or Amazon reviews isn't a new concept. It's kind of as old as time, right? It's just word of mouth. If you were running a shoe shop 200 years ago, you still would have had people giving you feedback, and you might put that into marketing in newspapers or whatever. It's just different now. It's evolved.
I mean, this is it. I mean, like you have talk about herd mentality in animals and things like that, right? The buffalo aren't going to eat certain berries if on a bush. Like the other buffalo then are going to be like, oh, I'm going to avoid that because no one's eating it, so therefore I'm not going to do it. Whereas one starts to do it, then another one will do it, and then another one will come on because you've seen someone else do it, and therefore it must be safe and things like that. So that's a bit of a crude example, but it's kind of stuff like that.
I think that's a really good example. I do that when I'm in a city and I don't know where to eat. I'm very suspicious when somewhere's too quiet. I would be really interested to know if there's ever been a study done where somebody has artificially made a restaurant look busier to then
Well,
fill it and to keep it
ooh,
to build a queue, because somewhere empty just puts me off. Like, it must be wrong.
oh, who is the wonderful person who's at our community dinner who runs a brand and interior design agency?
Becky from Raw Clay.
Becky. We need to chat to Becky about that, because I can imagine in her. So, first of all, next time you go to a restaurant, just watch where they position you. If the restaurant is fairly empty, where are they going to sit you?
Yeah.
They will most likely sit you near the window and at the front. To show people, hey, there's these people in here who are having a great time. You should be having a great time too. Or the way that the facade and the front is designed makes it will pinpoint a small area of people having food, which can be filled with, then expands larger at the back. So absolutely, there's all these psychologies within so many areas across the board. It's herd mentality. It's that trusting of other community members of someone doing that and doing this. I mean, if you walk up to a cliff top and people and you look down and go, wow, that's a long way down. Oh, look, there's water, right? You're probably not first thing into your head can be like, I'm gonna jump in. But then you walk up to the cliff and there's three people in swim shorts. One jumps in down into the water, being like, oh, that's a great place to jump off and go for a swim and have a bit of an adrenaline sort of thing. Be like, there can't be any rocks down there. These people must know what they're doing. I'm just going to follow. Don't do that. Always make your own critical thinking decisions. I'm not saying to do that, but anyway, it's that kind of those kind of elements. So the social proof is around the how other people's behaviors can encourage others, and the nudging of more sort of subtle interactions and cues within an environment that can kind of encourage people. Again, if we talk about the clifftop scenario, things like that. If there was a sign that said "No rocks below," perfect for cliff diving, that's quite a non-subtle environmental cue. That's an okay thing to do there. So it's a balance of the two.
Okay. And so we've kind of talked a little bit about how this ties into restaurants. How does this tie into community? Like,
absolutely. So it's so much around, community is about engagement. It's about members. A community isn't a broadcasting tool for brands and businesses, right? We've spoken about this so much. We've emphasized that a lot. It's a place to foster. I sound like a AI machine. That's one of the words that ChatGPT loves to kick out.
Loves to use.
Maybe that's infecting me. But it's a place to foster that back and forth and the conversation and the replying and the like peer-to-peer support sort of thing. So to look at this in how we can is essentially how we can encourage that, and so members can engage more actively. Okay. So
okay, cool. And have you got any examples of some good nudging you've seen, or ways that you would encourage folk to give it a go, rather than just being here, do this thing, more like please do this thing in a slightly more subtle and meaningful way?
Yeah, absolutely. And a little bit of it does come down to, I mean, not to promote our own show, but to promote our own show, like looking at the going back and watching our first conversation around onboarding, and trying to make sure we get a balance of people's data to help support some personalization in conversations, but then also looking at the participation ladder as well. Of there will just be people who engage at different rates. Like you can't expect everyone to be on the same kind of level. But with that, an example of of sort of nudging would be kind of a small level of personalization. Like if there's something about ongoing discussions or a topic that's going on at the moment, if a member has been categorized well, tagged well, given their certain feedback and stuff like that, adding little elements of personalization would be ideal for nudging people in the right route. And what I mean by that is by saying something like, "Hey Pete, you were reading about siloing communities the other day. Just again, promote our own stuff, referencing the previous talk. Spoke about siloing communities the other day. Well, Jacob's just released, just popped up a question about integration within other platforms and things like that. So really subtle things there. Obviously, personalization from using your name, Pete, but also personalization by using another member's name as well. So you've automatically got the peer-to-peer element, and then you've got the less subtle. You like this, so we're showing you this kind of element, but it's still in that kind of nudging of, hey, we know that you are interested in this, and you must have knowledge in this. Come share that knowledge with others, or be a part of the conversation, see what other people have to say. So it's just real subtle from a communications perspective. That as an example.
I've got a thought here, and a few years ago, we built a comparison site for a niche sector. So essentially a consumer could go on, they could search and filter, and they could find something they may be interested in buying, and inquire. And that inquiry would go to the manufacturer or the brand or somewhere, right? And I remember having a conversation with you at the time about, actually, we're seeing a problem where they're not being responded to. You know, that people are sending out inquiries being like, I want to buy this, but they're not getting back to them. And, you know, the easy thing to do would have been to send them regular emails being like, look, this person's got to you, get back to them. Just like an automated thing, like you've got 4 unread messages. But I remember having a conversation with you being like, actually, it'd be much more powerful if we said to you, in the last 24 hours, you've had £600,000 worth of inquiries. Get back to them within 24 hours, because the quicker you move, like, we know that if you return their message within 24 hours, your success rate of closing that deal goes up 32%, right? We're not shouting at you. We're not moaning at you. We are giving you all the data you need to act better. And I feel like that was probably a good example of that personalization, where we're not just using the default thing that comes out of the box, the easiest option. We're actually building something which is more meaningful.
And really speaks into thinking about what that end user wants and how we can encourage their behavior. Like the encouragement of the behavior there was to respond to essentially the sales request, which was mad that was just being ignored anyway. But we are helping bring people to you to buy something. Please come and engage. And that message of, this person sent an inquiry, here's their information. That level of that absolute level of enhancement of, okay, cool, here's how it's actually going to affect you directly and personally, and we know that this is what you're after. And so we're speaking into what you want as a goal to try and help our goal, which is you to engage. And yeah, absolutely.
Can I give one more theoretical example? Sorry to derail your episode here.
No, that's all right.
I was thinking, if, say, for instance, Stack Overflow had an option where you could be like, I'm available for work, like LinkedIn does, similar to LinkedIn, you could then get an email from them being like, did you know those that have contributed more than 10 responses are more likely to get hired, because people will be checking out your profiles? And it's that sort of deeper than just, please leave a comment somewhere, or please go make engagement. It's, please do, you know, I'm telling you why, like, it benefits you, and it benefits all of us in this kind of cyclical community way. And it just popped into my head. I think Stack Overflow should do that.
No, it's a really good example. And actually, 2 places that I know are doing that exact thing that you've just mentioned are Dribble and Behance, which are designer networks.
Sure.
Things as well. So that's they have a hire this designer as an example, but you're absolutely right. If you come to a blank profile within Dribble and you've got hire a designer, be like, oh, this isn't helpful at all. Don't just list it. You've got to do something for it to actually encourage engagement, which will then have this benefit for you, rather than, hey, you should just do this. As a scenario as well. So yeah, it's very much around the benefits of sort of nudging and social proofing are very much around boosting that engagement within things as well. But I mean, also it massively helps improve retention rates because it creates a stronger sense of belonging and loyalty as well, and also a positive culture as well, right? So by encouraging through the environment or social proof, if your goals are to bring either positivity or different ways of interacting, and those goals to kind of work with, you're going to be fostering a more positive culture within the community as well, and kind of have that constructive environment and excited and growing kind of environment. And there's other ways that we can look about that, but I mean, I've waffled long enough now.
The few examples we've given there are primarily around like email notifications, like please come, essentially like action based. Have you got any other kind of thoughts around ways folk listening could, maybe without making technical changes, so something they could just do kind of easy win, like some new ways of kind of nudging folk into, positive behaviors?
Yeah, I mean, the environmental changes are probably easier to do without technical inclusions there than necessarily the social proofing. But so from a nudging perspective and the changing sort of elements in the environment is just having a look at first place to start would just be tone and language of things. If you have automated reminders in a platform, or little alerts or things in a platform, and things would be a really great place to start. Of just, okay, cool. Well, this is a reminder that goes out about a certain action to do. For example, I don't know. It could be like we said before. Pete has just started a new topic of conversation over here. View it like that, like changing that to a something along the line. Pete is starting to chat to others about the importance of X sort of scenario. We think you might be. We think this might suit you as well, and that you've got great things to share. We'd love to bring you into the conversation. Like that is a community message rather than a, hey, there's this happening. It's much more of a, can you, like, we'd love for you to come and have a look as well, because you can feed into this and support into other members. And that's, again, a way to just help start people moving up that participation ladder as well, from that side of stuff. And then I suppose from a more technical aspect, if we were to do that from an environmental perspective, is being able to personalize the environment on a community platform based on information that you have about that person. So it'll be great if you could potentially, if someone reads a certain number of content pieces, or they interact with a certain number of messages and things like that, which can have relevant tags added to them, that starts building your interest profile on those kind of people as well, which then means you can tailor things a little bit more within their platform and have a bit more dynamic content. But that is more of a technical level, and probably easier to do, especially if you've got more of a bespoke platform as well, which is also massively beneficial. But I mean, we've got actually, you've written a brilliant article about that, haven't you? On the why bespoke platforms are really important thing to be looking at. Anyway, for sure. That's a separate conversation.
You mentioned a second ago about setting the tone, which triggered in my brain something which I do when I'm hosting an event. and I use the same line every time. So I can't remember who taught me it is. I actually do remember who it was now. But yeah, someone told me it's really important when you're hosting an event that you're the one that sets the tone. I've been to conferences where in theory the event should have been good, but the tone wasn't set and it became really insular, where everyone just focused on themselves and focused on the person they came with. Where I think if somebody just stands up at the front at the beginning and goes, look, this is a really friendly place, blah, 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 and does that. The way that I encourage nudging behaviors to be positive at the events I run is I use this line. We're here to swap stories, not business cards. I'm not telling people to be friendly. I'm not telling people to be inclusive. I'm just saying that's the expectation. And that always softens people and like lowers people's barriers that, hold on, wait, this isn't a sales event. I'm not going to get just, the local, photocopier guy trying to sell me his latest printer. And I find that line really nudges people into a better environment. And it's something which I say at every event I run, and it's kind of stuck and works.
And do you, when you run an event, say that line and then just go hang about in the corner on your phone?
Right. No, I model it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's making sure that is followed through as well. So at an event, for example, we're talking about events now, but again, it's people come together and it's community connection and relationships and stuff like that. Imagine having an events team at the door. You've got 3 people. As someone comes in and welcomes them in, you've got the events team are already chatting to other people. Then someone comes to the door. They pop along to the door. They see them. Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. I'm Jacob. I'm here supporting the event today. What brought you here? Things like that. I also like to ask people, not what do you do, but like what brought you here? Because again, it opens up an interest conversation, not a what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, oh, great. You're like, oh, fantastic. Come and chat to Susie and things like so when you can balance that within a community as well, is if you can model interaction and model engagement and connection as well, that'd be great. Of like welcoming someone into a community. Let's say there's a discussion group going on. I know I'm heavily talking about discussion groups, but it's just there's other ways. There's other communities of worlds, but it's just exactly what's in my mind of saying there's a conversation going on, right? You've got a new member coming in. You've had some conversation with that new member, welcoming them in, or you've got some information just to be able to go into a live conversation that might be happening. Then go, hey, I'm just welcoming Susie in. She's just joined the platform. Things like that, but she might have some insights or questions or thoughts about this as well, things like that. You've immediately pulled them in to connect, to say, wow, this is a community where we connect.
Yeah,
it's a heavy task to do, but if community managers aren't doing that, what else are they doing? Like foster, and I know that's a bit of a challenge, but make those personal connections.
We'll go on to social proof in a second, because I'm keen to talk a little more about that. But I can't remember what it was. It was about 6 months ago. I read a community manager who said we should stop asking people to introduce themselves in our communities. Instead, we should be the ones that introduce them and hype them up. So what they did was they would have a 10-minute call, or just they would find out some information about that person and they would introduce them like their personal hype person. And I love the fact, because people are often so modest when they introduce themselves. I run a community of 30,000 solo entrepreneurs. Like, it's not very big. And someone's like, come on, like, you're doing great things. And actually, I just loved that idea that someone's hyping you up rather than you being modest and British in the corner.
Yeah, well, 100%. That's exactly the best approach to take, because you're welcoming people to the party. I can't remember what episode we're talking about hospitality and talking about when people come to your house for a barbecue. You're not gonna, and they don't know anyone, or just let them. To be fair, I do know people who do that. Just let
it would be weird. It would be weird if I invited you over for a barbecue with a bunch of my friends and I went, "This is Jacob. Jacob, introduce yourself."
Hi, I'm Jacob.
So odd.
I work with Pete and design websites and stuff like that. Whereas like the engagement you could give
He
and the
lives here.
input
He's
you
got
can
these
give.
many kids. He does this really well. He loves hanging out in the sea. Like there's loads of things that I could pull on and be excited
I
about.
do
Anyway,
love
we're
hanging out
well
in the
off
sea.
tangent.
I love the sea.
Do you want to wrap things
I
up?
love where I live.
Do you want to let's talk about some social proofing things, and then let's close things up before we run out of time.
Yeah, well, I mean, social proofing again is the modeling. It's the modeling aspect. We've kind of touched upon that. But there's little things from a technical perspective we can do here as well, with like social proofing of a ecology. Ecology is not really a community network, a membership network, but the way that they run leaderboards, but also like you got participation badges, like help give that kind of input. So particularly within businesses, where businesses get really competitive with each other. So ecology, for those who don't know, a platform that allows you to help offset carbon, plant trees and things like that. And they're doing really well, particularly within the backlash of a lot of this stuff. They're really trying to up their game. But like within your profile, you also get you've planted your first 25 trees, you've planted your first 100,000 trees, and that can be used for social sharing and things like that. In a similar way, in a community, you could do things like that as well. Of being like, I think Reddit do it with karma or something like that. They used to have coins, but they've just got rid of coins as well. But if you've responded or replied to a certain number of posts, or had this many interactions or upvotes, or people really engaged in your Stack Overflow is a great example of this as well. You can then get recognition, which then drives. It's a little gamification-y, but not. It's like it's on the verge, but it's just to say, oh wow, look, this person's really engaged here. I want to sort of get to that point as well, and there's things to do in and around that. There's more that can be done. I might change this into an article. Actually, we could make this into an article for people to read with a bit more deeper insights.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what can be done there as well.
Nice. Fab. Do you want to try and summarize for us?
Oh yeah, let's do that. So essentially, knowing if you're just starting a community, putting together what are the key behaviors we would love our community to take? What are our goals for the community members to get out of this that they can feel encouraged by? It's a really great place to start, of just saying, this is what I'd love to do. And then it's working out of how can I bring in some nudges or social proofing that can help support this, achieve these kind of goals. Sorry, little cough there. Strategic muting. So how can we do that so we can achieve those kind of goals? And then you've got the two aspects of how can you improve people's environment on their on the community platform, whether that's through tonal changes, layout changes, information guidances, and so on, to help nudge them into the right into positive behaviors. And then you've got the social proofing aspect of things as well, where how can you model and how can other people model, both from a comms perspective, but also from a technical opportunities, like we mentioned about those badges, just to help people feel like want to engage. It's all about getting people to actively engage more, help them reduce churn and keep people retained, and just create that positive culture in a community.
There's a reason why before we start a project, we do so much strategy and so much thinking, because what we are doing is we are not just building a place for people to go hang out. You're building like a home. Like it's almost like that house versus home thing. You're like, we're building somewhere where it feels like the right thing. It's trying to achieve the goals it's set out to do. There's so much strategy and thinking that goes into a product before we start even designing the first concept, never mind the first line of code. And it's because it's this behavioral type thing around, actually, we need to think about what are the business objectives, what's the customer objectives, what's the community objectives, and how does this all tie together to create something that feels together, coherent, rather than just here's a thing, let's throw it up and hope it works. You know, we're not talking about a butcher's website that has opening times on and a phone number. We're talking about places where people want to hang out, invest themselves, and be vulnerable. It's important.
And absolutely. And just start with that strategic output of what is it I'm looking to achieve, my members are looking to achieve.
Yeah.
And a really, I know we're running out of time, but really quick insight is whenever you approach thinking about this sort of stuff, user stories are the way forward. So we are a documentation-led company here at Steadfast. We've got documentation of how we run different phases. One of those phases is a design phase, which includes discovery and so on. This is at the top of the documentation around doing a concept design.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into any of the details, it says phase. I've written this. So phase designer story. As a designer, at the end of the concept phase, I will have a clear design route that will lead the full website design. You are putting in by doing this phase, I will learn this. Or achieve this and stuff like that. You're immediately removing yourself from the goal, and you're creating a story around what the goal is. If you can think about goals that way or actions that way, of as a member, could be a pro member, could be a free member, could be an admin. Doing this will help me achieve this. Mm-hmm. So, and it's just a great place to start. Anyway, I know we're off and over, so let's wrap up.
Stop. Cool. Thank you, Jacob.
Cool. Nice one. Thanks, Pete. Great to chat. Let's catch up. Looking forward to catching up next week.
Yep.
And I hope everyone else found that interesting.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.